We're pleased to be talking to Paul Theobald. He's a Democrat running for the congressional seat in the 3rd District, currently occupied by Adrian Smith. Welcome. How you doing?
Nice to be here. Good, Kevin. Thanks.
Good. All right, tell us, you're kind of making a trek through the Panhandle and Scotts Bluff, right?
Yeah. I've been actually on the road. I happen to live on the east side of the state in Pierce County, so I've been on the road for over a week now.
Yeah. Pierce County, what do you do?
Well, I'm an educator, but I also am a part-time farmer. My wife and I, we raise purebred hogs. Primarily, we try for breeding stock, and then those that we don't sell that way, we feed out in direct market, or we sell them feeders. But I've worked for universities all my life, and Wayne State College in particular. That's where we raised our kids, and they graduated from high school there. We left the state for a while, but we came back sort of under my wife's directives. As soon as there were grandkids, we had to come back home. So,
Yeah.
so we landed in Pierce County. It's about 45 miles from Wayne.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you make a pretty good run to Wayne to teach, huh?
Well, yes, and I'm not employed there now.
Yeah.
Right now, I basically have a consulting business. I work for the universities that want to establish new programs or what have you. So
Yeah.
I can work out of our home there in Pierce.
Okay. All right. Let's just talk about what your priorities are. What made you run? What do you want to see happen?
Okay. Well, I'm a rural person. I'm a descendant of farmers. My dad was a rural mail carrier. I probably would have been a farmer myself had there been a kind of a familial route into it, but my dad's dad never owned his own place, rented farms all his life, and my mom's dad had his own 160-acre farm, but he died before I was born. So I became an educator. But I always taught in rural schools, rural public schools, and then in rural universities like Wayne State College. And that work brought me literally all across the country, helping rural people defend their communities and defend their schools. And, this past summer, my wife and I were talking, and we decided, this is what the 3rd District needs. So I decided to throw my name in the hat.
All right. So your basic issue is to
rural community
reverse the trend of rural decline, basically, right?
Exactly. And there are a number of different ways that I would like to work making that happen. One is through some innovative revenue generation and innovative programming. But there's a lot that goes into that, and part of that, making our rural communities vital and vibrant again, is making sure that we have prosperous, independent producers of food surrounding them. So ag policy is really critical in my view, and I would be there to support putting an end to the mega mergers that diminish the independence of our farmers and ranchers, and kind of flipping the script on the Farm Bill, such that we are ensuring a reasonable profit margin for small, medium, and large operators as our first and primary objective. What happens now, of course, is that agribusiness inputs come out just fine, and in fact, in record profits, even in years like we've had in the last several, where prices haven't met the cost of production. It forces farmers and ranchers to operate on very thin profit margins. And that, sometimes pushes them to acquire more land, which, kind of has a negative effect all the way around in terms of on small operators and then on the vitality of rural communities. So ag policy is critical, when we're talking about revitalizing rural communities.
Yeah.
There would be other issues too, but I'll let you go ahead and ask the questions.
All right. Okay. Well, let's stay with the agriculture theme. You mentioned try to ensure that these people at least get a reasonable return. Does that mean going back to, instead of a crop insurance thing, having a kind of a federal subsidy type situation?
I think that it does, and I'm not going to specify exactly how that gets done. I just want to make sure that it does get done. I think there are several different options to make that happen. But yes, there's going to have to be subsidies to make sure that we continue to have, a wide array of farmers around these communities, farmers and ranchers. Which route we take to ensuring that reasonable level of profit margin, is something we can work out.
Okay. You've been probably keeping up with NAFTA. Are you for NAFTA? You agree with the president on the direction he's going?
Well, I don't think anybody in the state of Nebraska does. If they do, they don't know what's, how this is going to potentially affect us. I think most Nebraskans realize that Mexico is our largest agricultural market, and they are in the process of negotiating seriously with Argentina and Brazil to replace American grain. This would be devastating to the state of Nebraska. So we need, to send the message to the president: don't do this to our state. Don't do this to our ag producers. And and it's not just Mexico. We obviously have a very frayed relationship with them now. But Japan too. There was antipathy generated there. They, as you probably know, they almost doubled their tariff on imported American beef. Nebraska's synonymous with beef. This is not good for us as well. The tax bill, Trump's own ag department did an analysis of how the tax bill is going to shake out for farmers and ranchers. And what they found, now again, this is not the Congressional Budget Office or University Research, this is Trump's own economists in the USDA. And what they found is that the lowest earning 20% of farmers and ranchers will actually see their tax burden increase by this law that we just passed. And that's going to be devastating. I mean, I can't imagine Pierce County losing 20% of its farmers. It would be profoundly disruptive. The middle ranks, of course, will be pretty much a wash, and as with other segments of the economy, the highest earning 10% of producers, farmers and ranchers, will receive the bulk of the tax benefits. And this is not, it's good for agribusinesses. They get paid by the acre, not by the farmer, not by the rancher. So in some ways, having fewer farmers and ranchers benefits them because it creates greater dependence on their products, and that way they can charge more for their products. And we just need to flip that script. We need to make sure that the emphasis is on prosperous farmers and ranchers, not prosperous agribusiness input industries.
Okay.
I wanted to say, if you don't mind, Kevin, there's another piece to this. And I'll explain to why it's very important when we think about rural community vitality. Obviously, we have to have ag policy that benefits farmers and ranchers. But healthcare is a serious issue for the 3rd District. We are self-employed. Disproportionately, we're employed in very small businesses that can't afford healthcare packages. And the income in the 3rd District is low by comparison to the rest of the nation. So we need desperately affordable health care. But, having said that, I'm actually not in favor of the Affordable Health Care Act. I think we need to move with all deliberate speed to a Medicare for all system, which has the effect, of course, of removing that stress and anxiety over how we're going to pay our health care bills or whether I should go to a doctor or just suck it up. We're the only people on the planet, really, that have to deal with that stress. But here's the thing. When you remove that burden of wondering what the impact is going to be if I have a serious illness in the family, then you kind of free people up to say, you know what, I've always been passionate about this. I would like to go into and start a business in this. And they're okay to do that because they know they're covered in terms of healthcare. They can't do it now because if they do, they could run into a situation where their ability to lead a dignified life is compromised for the rest of their lives. So Medicare for all, I think, is a critical thing for the 3rd District and for rural community vitality. As I say, that will open up the entrepreneurial spirit and allow people to pursue their passions and start new businesses. Now, I think we have to do some things. As far as small business startups go, there are some programs, but that needs to be magnified, in my view, tenfold or more. The idea, last summer, Wall Street Journal had this big article, Rural America, the Next Inner City. And it doesn't have to be that way. I'm running to affect a prosperous rural America. That's my goal. I would push on all of these things, raising the income level, raising minimum wage, stimulating the economy from the bottom rather than the top. Because at the bottom, the money turns over and over and over in local communities, and that's exactly what we need. So these are just some of the things that I'm very passionate about, and there are reasons why I'm running.
If everybody had Medicare, that cost us some money. Where do we get the money?
Well, it would save us a lot more money than it would cost us. That's the advantage. The thing about the Affordable Health Care Act is it does nothing about the fact that we have medical providers, health insurance industry, pharmaceutical industry, all of them charging what the market will bear, which is really what makes our system so egregiously expensive, twice as expensive as the second most expensive system on the planet on a per capita basis. So when you take that away, we don't have to be paying these exorbitant prices. So there's that. The other piece is the administrative cost. And in the health insurance industry, the administrative costs run about 25% on average throughout the industry. The administrative cost for Medicare, as we have it now, is only 2%. So there's enormous savings there as well. So yes, there's some minimal cost, but compared to what we're paying for healthcare right now, there's enormous savings. In fact, I've argued that if Democrats and Republicans really wanted to put money back into the pockets of Americans, that's exactly where they would go to do it, because it would save them thousands, despite the fact that they might have a slight increase in their taxes.
Okay. You also are opposed to the pipeline, right?
Adamantly. Yeah, I think this is probably a textbook example of the power of multinational corporations. If you go back 25 years, I think if you had told Nebraskans that a foreign company was going to come in here, declare eminent domain, create a pipeline right through our greatest natural resource, I think they would have laughed at you. But over the last 25 years, they've attained so much power and so much wealth that they can throw it around in different ways to affect these kinds of things, and really sit down with ranchers and say, look, here's what we're giving you. You take it or leave it, and that's to say nothing of the great danger there with all of those incredible chemicals that they have to use to move that stuff. So yeah, I'm not in favor of large multinational corporations coming in and trampling on the rights of farmers and ranchers, endangering our greatest natural resource. I think it's a textbook example of the power of multinational corporations. But here's the thing. Nebraskans have always stood up to corporate power. It's our legacy. That's why my campaign is a call to live our legacy. Our grandparents and great-grandparents came together. They pooled their resources. They created cooperatives to compete against national giants. It's our history. It's our legacy, and that's something that we can channel again, and more so than any other state in the union. This is what we do. So I'm a proud citizen of Nebraska, and I want to channel that spirit.
All right. One other quick question. Immigration is a big thing right now. What's your stance on immigration?
Well, I'm, like most Americans, I'm for allowing the Dreamers, give them a path to citizenship, because they're making contributions right now. I heard one analogy that in order to deport the Dreamers, it would be like taking all the working adults out of the 8-county area that is Omaha, Douglas and Sarpy and the 6 adjoining, and then simply deporting all of that. That's what it would be like to our economy. It would not be a good thing for the country, and most Americans oppose it. Now, having said that, I am in favor of looking at ways to curb illegal immigration. I'm not particularly fond of the idea of building a wall, which is egregiously expensive and will only stop like something like 6%. Most illegal immigrants come to the country via air. So but I think that something needs to be done. It amazes me that Congress is simply unable to do anything. They haven't done anything for years and years on this issue. I'd like to see some plans. I'd be in favor of some things to control illegal immigration, but not the dreamers.
Okay. All righty. Very good. I appreciate you coming in.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.